It's thinking. Welcome back to the Business Roundtable Podcast. I am your host, David Carr, founder of Stewardship Business, where we bring to you great leaders, great folks that have amazing experiences in helping businesses grow, develop. And this episode is no different. But this episode, we're not just talking about growth itself, but how do we grow as a leader? How do we grow in developing our messaging? We're talking about visibility, your authority, your leadership, and what does it actually take a founder? So if you're an existing founder or you're thinking about founding a business, maybe you're in that business, you're trying to have that business grow, but what do you have to do in today's market? Because what we've seen, and I've seen as I've talked to a lot of folks, and why I'm actually really grateful to have our guest here, is maybe your messaging isn't quite clear. It's not hitting the mark, or your leadership isn't visible, or that founder, you maybe have become disconnected from the actual voice of the company. And so today I get to welcome Solomon Thimothy. He is the founder of Clickx, and an entrepreneur, a growth strategist, a fellow podcast host, and someone who's spent over 2 decades helping companies grow, generate leads, build authority, and actually scalable marketing systems. So I want to just say thank you for joining us on the podcast today, Solomon.
Thank you so much, David. Super excited to be here. Just honored. Our conversations before and this morning as well. This has been amazing, just connecting with another entrepreneur just like you, who's just as passionate as, as anyone that, couldn't be more excited for this conversation.
Well, I really appreciate when we first started talking, one of the initial conversations we had was about the founders and how they can't outsource that passion. And I thought, okay, yeah, that really stood out to me. And I wanted you to unpack that for our audience, because this is something you really work with founders about. It's like, what do you mean when you say founders can't outsource that passion?
Right. So I'll just use Oprah Winfrey, right? So if Oprah Winfrey outsourced her marketing, would Oprah be Oprah? This is kind of the example, right? So I don't think David can get a marketing manager and say, well, go ahead and personal brand me, but I'm not going to create any content. I'm not going to put any thought leadership piece. I'm not going to go try to be on podcasts. I won't make any webinars. I won't write on Forbes. I won't write a book. Right? It's the same thing. And no one can ever do what you can for your company. No one's going to be as passionate about you as you are for your own business, right? So you can never hire someone to delegate and say, well, go be my brand. Richard Branson, could you outsource Richard Branson and put it in the body of another person? They will not be Richard Branson. That's the thing. Richard Branson's got this personality that you can't find. And so if Richard Branson wasn't holding that sign, the first airplane before he got, into that business, he was walking around saying, hey, I got a plane because it's one way. He can only fly one way. And he was getting people, one person at a time, selling tickets, believe it or not. I don't think anybody would want to put themselves through that stress of trying to sell ticket to build what's now Virgin Airlines. Like that's, you can't hire a marketing manager or a sales VP and say, go figure it out. So I feel, and this is something we do for every entrepreneur we work with. This wasn't something we did before, but we get every founder on podcasts. We say, look, if you're going to work with us, we got to get your thought leadership in check, just as we're going to be helping you build lead generation, marketing automation, AI stuff, whatever it is we're doing. We need to make sure that you're constantly promoting your business. We need you on it. And if the founder says, I'm not going to get on a phone or I'm not going to do a podcast, I say, you know what? I can do all these things for you. What they're going to do is they're going to go to Perplexity and put in David Carr, because I'm going to sign this $100,000 product and buy from you. I want to know who this founder is or this company is about. I want to find new information about this company so that they know, I'm going to trust this company, but the guy's out there. He's out there. He's speaking and podcasting and webinaring or whatever it is. It just brings so much more, passion about why am I working with this company?
Yeah, absolutely. We just did a recent episode with a PR company. Solomon, to your point, they were like, hey, we need to be sure we know who you are and who you're trying to talk to, and get you out there. And to your point, if you can't outsource that. And I think and it takes time and effort to get clear on this. And what I found working with companies too, Solomon, to your point, is if the business owner isn't willing to do this, then your employees are not going to know that either. They're not going to clearly communicate that message to the marketplace either.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the other thing. You should delegate everything else, but not this, right? So you should delegate. You're running reports every day, looking at the dashboards or running payroll or whatever it is that you think you have to do. You can delegate that, but you should be creating content that is not going on podcasts or something like that. Just getting content out there about your products or solutions and the new invention that your company, the new capability, the new things that you're rolling out, and interviewing your customers to make sure that they're having the success. So you're creating now proof that you know what you're doing. And you should be creating a webinar if you're a B2B company, educating the world about what the problems you solve. And you're sharing that passion on other people's platforms like you and I doing. And it is not so I can go ahead and sell to anyone on this podcast. It's actually the other way around. I want to make sure everybody that's listening is getting so much value out of David's podcast that they're going to continue to listen to David because he's made a commitment to bring in really good people, not because he makes $1 million with every episode. It's because he's made a commitment that I'm going to go and find really good people and I'm going to bring them to you so you don't have to go out there and find these people. I'm going to do it for you, right? Like, so my job is to just come here and make as much value as I possibly can to your audience because they want you. You're the guy that's going to bring another Solomon and another one and another Gary Vee or whoever else that you have lined up, because that's kind of how we listen to podcasts, right? We listen to podcasts because we know the podcast is going to deliver value. We don't just go and chase guests because that's really not it. But every entrepreneur should be thinking about, what am I doing to make my mission bigger, right? Like it's our job. We have a passion. We're passionate about the problem that we solve,
right?
And that impact that you want to create, you have to get out there. You're the Martin Luther King Jr. with "I Have a Dream."
Yeah. So well, to that point, Solomon, I agree. But there is, what happens if leaders? What have you seen when leaders hide behind the brand instead of becoming the voice of that mission? They're like, okay, well, let's just go together. What have you seen over your 20 plus years working with companies? Because some of them may have started that way, but then they kind of, like you said, they kind of maybe hide.
Yeah, you get complacent. Yeah, your business is good. I don't need to do it. So we work with a lot of second generation business owners. So I come from Chicago. Chicago is like notorious for industrial manufacturing companies. And those kinds of brands don't have a voice. There's no CEO getting on video and saying my widget is better than her widget, because they're all selling commodity at some point. But so then you now sell the business, or the kids are taking over. They don't have the same passion. They just have a business handed over to them. Do you see what I'm saying? Now they're like, I don't know. I'm the owner. I'm the new owner of a $50 million manufacturing company. I just want to make money. Right. But then what happens is that they stop innovating, or the competition takes over for whatever reason. It is not because they don't have the capability, is that the mission is not as clear to their employees that are frontline or whatever else. They just sort of look at it like it's a cash cow or makes money, and it just kind of runs, and marketing managers come and go, VPs come and go, and it's just sort of like another run-of-the-mill organization. Whereas if you have a leader who's outspoken, very, very mission-oriented, and say, guys, we're going to reinvent this industry. We want to be the number one in this space. We want to be the best joint of whatever it is that we sell. We actually are okay that we're not the biggest, but we're going to be the best. Because maybe the biggest is like an international company or something. But guess what? We're going to make sure we know every single client by name. We're going to make sure our customer service is second to none. We're going to make sure that our response time is milliseconds. What happens to the people working there? They're going to get fired up. They're going to be like, oh, I'm so glad I work here, because everywhere else, the employees' morale is not great, or they don't want to, you know what I mean? They don't want to put in the extra effort. There's no customer success metric that they're chasing. It's just, I believe that comes from the top. You can't never let it come from the bottom. No one's going to wake up and say, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to crush it today. It doesn't work like that. They're going to only eat the energy of the person that is doing that. And let me tell you, Mark Benioff, Salesforce, I've seen him in person at Dreamforce. He's the same fired up guy that he was since day one. And he has, I don't know how many salespeople, but let me tell you, the best salesperson in that company is him. You can't beat him, right? He's on CNBC. He's going to give it a keynote.
Yeah, he's there.
He's literally the brand that, and I could use Elon, but there's a lot of issues with Elon. Who's more passionate about space? It's not the lead engineer. It's this guy who's making up stuff, saying, I got to go to, Mars and die there. Well, I guess that's the best example, because nobody else is going to have that passion. And by the way, this is not a temporary increase in business. It's not a marketing tactic. It's not like you're going to make more money, which all of it is true. By the way, I do, when I was talking about getting, our customers on podcast, I get a lot of authors and speakers reaching out to us saying, how do we generate more business? And I say, well, how many podcasts do you go on? And I ask these questions. I'm like, you want to promote a book? It's a cost. A book is a cost. It's not a book. It's what is it that you believe in? It's all of the things that you learned, you are so passionate about. Your 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years of experience, whatever it is, you put into an $8 book, not because you love it to make $8. It's because you're hoping 1 million people are going to be impacted by it. Well, I said, if you didn't go out there and promote your book, who's going to do it for you? Nobody.
Right. We just recorded a podcast with an author. He was on just yesterday. We recorded. To your point, Solomon. Yeah.
So if David Carr didn't go on podcast to talk about his book, is Solomon going to go and talk about David's book? It's not going, right? So let's fast forward. Here's the example I was getting at. So I asked this gentleman we just decided we're going to work together, but I said, go to Perplexity, ChatGPT, anywhere. It says, who is Solomon Thimothy? All the citations of what ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, Claude knows about me came from a podcast. So none of it came from my personal website or company website or anything. It came from third-party websites that it trusts and it finds useful, resourceful, like Forbes or Inc. magazine, Fast Company, whatever, or podcast, which is considered media. So I said, I didn't tell it in the morning, this is what I want to be. Here's who I am. Here's my clients. I can't go train ChatGPT what I wanted to say because I am here telling them what to say. It can only pick up information from third-party sources it trusts, and it can cite. Well, where is the information about you on the internet for it to answer when somebody else asks, saying, who is David Carr? Where is that going to come from?
Exactly. That's exactly why that was one of my questions, to your point, is, how content has changed the way we trust and build our business. And what I'm hearing you say is podcast is one of those things. And I feel like, and I love your thought on this, Solomon, if a podcast is, we're not using AI or anything, it's literally, you're getting real Solomon and real David here talking in real time, mistakes and all, and we might mess up on something, but that's okay. I mean, we're human. And I think, Solomon, I want you to comment on this. I think that we're seeing an undercurrent, but I think it's going to grow as things get quote unquote polished by AI and other things of like, but I want to actually connect with a real person that I can actually feel truly like, I love my clients. I want to love them. I want to lift them up. I want to help them. I don't think AI is ever going to do that. It's going to, we'll know in our mind, we'll know it's not totally real, and that you're helping your clients and advocating for them, Solomon. But speak to what you're seeing in the marketplace of like you said, content and reaching people.
Absolutely. So our whole marketplace has been shifted thanks to ChatGPT, OpenAI, and all the things that's happened. Search is no longer a thing that we do in Google. It's something that we do inside AI, LLMs, and you name it, right? So the buying behavior has changed. Our behavior is now going and finding a business with high number of reviews on ChatGPT. I'm just using that as an example. It's got the most user base, 880 million or some users at the end of last year. So it's like there's got a lot of people using this thing. So we're not using Google to do that. So what happens if you don't show up in that brand, inside ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Grok, any of them? Well, you don't exist. because our decision making has gone from going to Google, clicking on blue links, 10 of them, and making the assessments ourselves in our brains, our not the artificial brain, the real brain, right? And then assessing, oh, good review, bad review. I'm gonna call Bob and then have him fix my whatever. To go to ChatGPT and say, find me a business and da 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 da, right? And then it gives you 3 options. They don't give you 10 like Google. There's no links. It just says big, 2, and 3. And so what do? We think that is our assistant did all the work for me. We just call the first one. Now, those 10 people that used to be on Google, 7 of them are no longer getting any calls because ChatGPT only shows you 3. If you want more and you say, give me more, it'll give you 2 more. Now you have 5. You're still losing 5 other businesses that can do that. So if you're not creating the type of content that AI is reading and then understanding, like YouTube videos and Instagram content and everything else, it is not going to cite you and put you on the top. And that's the real problem here. So it's not just the founder wanting to get the mission out there. We are no longer live in a world where just running some ads on Facebook or Google is going to get you in, or just showing up inside Google because we've been here for 30 years is enough, right? We're going to lose calls because fundamentally the whole thing is shifted. And so if we're not changing with this big change that I'm seeing in the marketplace, that's one of the reasons we get our clients on podcasts, is because we need to continually push their brand out there for these tools to go and read and understand. So I'll give you a perfect example. I can search for David Carr today, and I'm going to get a different answer than 2 weeks from now because it now reads more information you put out since this search and to the next one. And it's going to try to bring the latest information there is about you. So if you were quoted in Wall Street Journal, it's going to pick that up and put it on the top of that saying, well, David was quoted on Wall Street Journal on so-and-so date, because it knows, it's studied and indexed and archived, whatever you want to call it. It understood it. It's been trained by that new information about you. Or it'll go do a real-time search and find all of that information and give the user a really up-to-date picture of who David Carr is. And so our customers don't know that. They don't understand that. Most entrepreneurs don't understand that what you did in the past isn't going to get you in the front of ChatGPT, Perplexity.
Well, that's a natural kind of lead into my next question, really. What I found at Steward Your Business is that the businesses usually stall when the founder's clarity stops translating through the entire organization. There's not clarity, and so we're not thinking clearly. It's affecting how we develop our people and our teams and our marketing initiatives. And so one of the things, again, you and I talked about before we recorded this podcast, is how do we look at things differently and not just do the same old? There's a great book out there, 10x is easier than 2x, and there's a difference in the way you think. And we talked about this of this 10x growth versus incremental growth. And what have you seen that separates that mindset of like, oh, because you're asking some people to maybe do some revolutionary things they haven't thought about before, they haven't considered. Like, we just do this normal, traditional way, right? And obviously you just outlined that's not working anymore. But talk about, like, how do we get there? How do we get from that incremental thinking? What have you seen?
Absolutely. So just using the AI search as an example, if you're a founder and you're working really hard for the future, so you show up inside ChatGPT, that's a 10x move. That's what I say. Or just doing the same thing that you're doing right now, kind of waiting for a lead to come in or referral sources or networking. Well, the best chance, the best bet is you're going to 2x, because you're going to get some of the same thing that you're been getting, and you might grow 10% or 20%. In 5 years, you're going to be whatever it is. So the 10x moves are much more strategic. In other words, you're going to cut out all of this other marketing and you're going to focus on this other thing, which has so much potential because it's so early. It's kind of like buying Bitcoin when it was $3,000. It's so early, nobody freaking knows that it's going to be $150,000 or whatever it is, $100,000 or $70,000. Nobody knows. But we know it's not a fad. We know it's not going away. We know that next year it's going to be smarter than it is this year. So do I want to invest my time on a 10x idea, or do I just double down on what has worked for the last 50 years or whatever many years? That's the mindset. So what we work with founders, we ask these same questions. Where do you make the most amount of money? Is that this product or is it that product? And oftentimes the product that they make the most amount of money, they market the least because they put a lot of time and energy into the thing to stay competitive in a commodity like product because everybody else is marketing. So we're like, we got to get in the door for this thing because that's the first thing they want. I said, great. But then there's this other thing you make like 80% margin. I don't know. I'm just making some.
Yeah, sure.
You like make so much more money doing, let's just use you and say, let's say you did speaking engagement and David, you charge $100,000 per speaking engagement, but you can sell all the books you want. You're making 99 cents.
Yeah.
You'd have to sell 100,000 books to 100,000 people and Amazon takes half of it and you're left with 50 cents. You're still not making as much as one speaking engagement. So to me, what we would try to figure out is that we should stop wasting your time on all this selling this other stuff. We should just get you in front of the right people who can hire you to speak for their team and give you what you're worth, $100,000. To me, that's what it's going to take me to help you 10x your business. So we get rid of all this other noise and then we focus your attention on a few, if not one, so you can actually grow, if that makes sense. We cut out
that makes sense. I mean, I think sometimes in my experience, Solomon, they don't. How have you helped diagnose this? Because sometimes I think they might think they're actually being more incremental. The question I heard you say, where you make the most money, you're breaking this down because I think some of the leaders are underestimating this strategic positioning, going through this strategy and slowing down long enough to get ready. And can you talk a little bit about that? Just how you work with folks or anybody that's thinking about they're going so fast, they're not slowing them down. How can we be more strategic in our positioning?
Absolutely. Well, we talked about strategic coach last time. That's kind of how I learned all of these insights. So what strategic coach teaches you is to think about your thinking. I guess that's the first thing I wanted to just get out there is like, we got to think about our thinking. So most entrepreneurs are too busy running the business, being the, the go-to for everything. But we don't have time to think about whether or not we're thinking the right way. We're thinking about it the right way. We're thinking about it from a long-term perspective versus we're just trying to make it through another year, which is a 2x thinking. 10x thinking is, well, I don't want to be done doing this in the next year, or I don't want to do this. I don't want to be done doing this for the next 10 years. What's going to take me to be the best version of this kind of business or whatever you're running in the next 30 years? And a lot of times, if you look at like the S&P 500 and all these big brands, the companies that are not going to be doing great right now are the ones that are not solving for this quarter. They're solving for the next 20 years. So no analyst likes them because they're not moving the needle fast enough. They're not doing anything. Well, they're not rolling out AI. They're not. Look at Apple. They still have the crappiest intelligence. And I'm like, this is not no AI, but they don't really care right now. They haven't cared for the last 2 years, but they're the biggest electronics company. We all wear their Apple Watch with half of intelligence. And I hate it. I'm like, this thing doesn't work. But I'm still going to use the product because they didn't play a short-term game, right? So it's like, we don't have to try to win this quarter or this 6 months. What if we can become the best? So what happens is when you start thinking more long-term, which is that strategic thing we're talking about, then your decision starts to change. You won't chase every dollar. You start chasing $100 bills. The $100 bills becomes $1,000 bills or whatever it is. So our decision to work on AI projects was not because we can't make money doing the things that we did before. We wanted to build an entity that cared so much more about being the AI go-to, because that's where going to be the biggest loss and confusion for entrepreneurs. We wanted to help them show up inside ChatGPT. We want to help them follow up with their leads on autopilot with no salesperson in the middle. We want to help them get found on podcasts using AI, no pitching, happening. So like we're building tools like that we think are a 10x idea, because we think the next revolution is autonomous agents doing work, and it's not going to be hiring Molly and whoever else, Lucy, and then put them together in an office and just do stuff. They're going to do it, but they're going to do prompt engineering. They're not going to do the copy and paste of the world, right? So yeah, we build these kinds of tools because we're thinking, okay, well, if we think more strategic, this is the direction that we need to move our clients and everybody that we talk about. We don't want to teach them how to use a CRM system because the next generation of workforce isn't going in and finding Bob and updating the record. It's going to download the last call transcript and replace and just, it's going to replace all of the fields for you. It's going to be a different thing. So I'll give you a perfect example. My CRM system is evaluated every day. Okay. All the leads that are not being talked to every day. And it goes and finds like 10 leads that we haven't talked to, goes and understands all the context information, like all the previous conversation, even how they found us, and sends them an email by itself, very personalized, asking, hey, you want to circle back on this conversation? And then it skips anybody that has booked a call with me. I mean, this stuff is so interesting. I can't even believe it. And then it sends me an email or to my team that says, these are the people that we followed up with today. And these are the people we skipped. These are the people I had to process from the CRM to get to these few people. And it's amazing. I want that for every organization. I don't want anybody to not do that. Yeah. And I'm just like, what more can we do? You know, like what can we figure out next? And so I loaded up a developer. It's like, do this, and this, because I can't finish it, but I started it.
Yeah. It's you're getting that help. You're coming to help. I think this is a thing that I find, honestly, with a lot of conversations I have with Steward Your Business, a lot of leaders, business owner or the leader, just carrying the weight of the growth. And they don't, and without the alignment or the structure, they need to sustain it. And this comes into people. And I think absolutely you can upskill our workforce. Like you're saying, hey, they're not going to be doing data entry. They can adjust. And I think I'm all for that. And that's something at Steward Your Business we're all about, trying to help folks. And for those of you who are listening, if that helps resonate, reach out to me, or you're hearing Solomon talk about, hey, this part of your business and following up with your leads and such, reach out to Solomon. That's all going to be in our show notes, by the way. And Solomon and I are connected on LinkedIn as well. Yeah. But I think to your point, it's doing this front end work you're saying, Solomon, of, I personally really love the podcast tool came about, like you were saying earlier, about like getting this clearer as an authority building platform, a way of sharing your message with the world and being authentically real, because then we can use, like you were saying, the emails and because it's pulling from that. But if you don't have that foundation, then it's like you said, it's not going to be authentic. It's not real. We've got to have, it's what I hear you say, Solomon, it's both. It's yes, and it's not only this. And I feel like there's a danger where people only want to go straight to the automation, straight to that, like you said, the premise of this. So here, I think loud and clear, I'm hearing you say is do this strategic work on the front end. Think about how you're going to do this, and then start to layer in the automations and the AI, not the other way around.
Absolutely. And I'll also, you asked, how do you get to that level? Is just that when a client comes and wants to work with us, we just don't start running Facebook ads. We don't just start saying, oh, we got to do this, because that's what a lot of the kind of companies that you might find on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would stop and say, well, David, why are we doing this? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yes.
And then David's like, oh, I just need leads. I said, well, how many leads do you need? Wait, where is these leads going? Who's calling the leads? What are you doing with the leads you made last month? They just say, wait a minute, why are you asking me all these questions? I just need you to work with me to just give me more leads. I said, that's all I want. I said, well, we're probably not the good fit for you, because you need to go work with somebody who is going to just give you more leads. And then you're going to be the exact same place asking for more leads 12 months from now and 24 months from now, except you have such a big hole in your funnel. You're going to want more leads because you're losing them faster than you're getting them.
Right.
And I said, I cannot help you. And they said, well, what do you mean? It's because I don't want to get involved with somebody who's not willing to fix the bigger problems in the business. And that's when we get into those strategic questions, like, what are we trying to be in 3 years? What are we trying to be in 5 years? If you're an organization, you've ever heard of EOS has like a 3-year, a 5-year, a 10-year. Well, wouldn't it be nice to know everybody here knows where we're going in 10 years? Wouldn't that be nice? Now, nobody knows where we're going to be in 10 years.
Yep.
We might be in Mars with Elon, but it would be nice to know what we would like to be in 10 years.
Right.
It's the same exact thing, right? So when we start going that level, they don't become so handicapped that leads aren't the problem. They start to see that, well, maybe we should not close these little clients, and maybe we should focus on those bigger clients. Maybe we don't need to just grind it out trying to make another week or month. Maybe we need to be more focused on the kind of clients that we should be bringing on, right? Those 10x opportunities. So I think it really starts again from the top, having those kinds of conversation. You don't know how many times we get trapped into this. We don't got enough leads.
Yes.
Well, okay. Maybe it is a fact we don't have enough leads. There's a lot of reasons. Right now, the market could be a reason. Maybe there people are laying up people off. Like, I don't know why we don't have enough leads. But let me tell you, if you ran $1 million in Google Ads last year, it's going to cost you more because Google Ads have become more expensive a year later. And their algorithm is not even the same. And so, like, there's a lot of reasons why last year to this year, our numbers are different. There's a million reasons. Maybe you switch CRM systems and all the tracking is jacked up. I don't know.
Yep.
But we should still stop and say, well, are we even advertising the right service? And are we spending every single dollar as a good steward of our resources? Or are we just trying to get more leads at any cost? Because there's a lot of leads that are not qualified. Why waste your time in the first place?
Right. Yeah. To your point, Solomon, I really want to emphasize this as you're listening to folks on the podcast. Like, Solomon's investing his time. He's coming to bring value. I'm coming here. We're not asking you to pay anything for this. Other we love your comments and feedbacks and review. We definitely welcome that. But to the point, what you're bringing, Solomon, is you're asking clarifying questions. I do the same thing at Steward Your Business. I'm like, why are you doing this? What are you trying to achieve here? Because there's too many people out there, and unfortunately it's amplified by AI in a bad way of I get every day on LinkedIn, could you use more leads? Or could, whatever. It's this constant barrage. And I'm like, you've not taken any understanding of me and where I'm going. What do you know what my plan is? Like you said, to your point, do you know my plan in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? No, you don't know. You just look at a service that I offer, and you just kind of extrapolate and assume that that's a one size fits all. And I think that's a real danger for any business owner. Don't assume, you've got to listen to the clients and things that are shifting in the market and understanding, to your point, Solomon, and be curious. And that's why I have Solomon on here. So that way, here's somebody who's going to ask you some questions honestly and really help you see, is this the right fit? Is this the right direction? What do we need to start doing? What do we need to stop doing? What do we need to sustain doing? Solomon, I really appreciate that you bring that, that drive in what you do, your company. Yeah.
It's what entrepreneurs are known for. There's an assessment I recommend everybody take. It's called Kolbe assessment. I'm pretty sure you're taking it, maybe.
Yep.
But there's one of the things on there is quick start. And quick starts are mostly what entrepreneurs are. We're really good at starting new things. You watch a video, you're like, I got to go buy this. Then you see another thing, I got to go buy. We're really good at starting. We have very little follow through, which is why we, you want to team up a visionary with an integrator, because a visionary is just moving so fast, they can't even keep up with themselves.
Yep.
And so same thing happens when it comes to marketing. You're just ready to go and run ads, but we don't know why. And we don't actually know what happened last time or the last week. It's just kind of a problem, right? So I'm like a quick start 9. My score is 8, but I'm like a 10. But I'm sure I screwed up a question. I'm really a fast mover.
Yes.
So I know my weakness is not being strategic. It's not. But I force myself, and kind of why I'm in communities like we just mentioned is so that I can be reminded that sometimes I can make a 2x decision. Maybe I could just I'll settle for a 2x deal because we're like, oh, we need the revenue or whatever else. But oftentimes it's happening at the expense of a 10x opportunity. That's what happens, because you only have so much time and energy. You can't pursue everything. So when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. And so oftentimes you need partners that are going to stop you and ask you the tough questions, because you yourself don't know how to ask that question yourself. You yourself will sell yourself on a 2x deal when somebody has to be saying, look, David, this is not the best interest for you, because I can get you in front of $250,000 speaking engagement. Why settle for $25,000?
Right.
And you're like, oh, really? Okay. Well, then let's focus on that. Well, what do I got to do? Well, we got to get on TED Talk. We got to do this. We got to do that. But the outcome is going to be far greater, right? Like that's what we want. We want to be the number 1 podcast, David. We don't want to be number 27.
Right.
There's no point. There's no value in that. When you start thinking that way, then every time you have an episode launching, there will be $400,000 in sales or whatever it is that is equating to when you're that number one. But isn't that worth it? That's the question you want to ask yourself. I've never heard an entrepreneur say, yeah, I'm okay being like the last one, or I'm okay being the 50th one, because that's not who we are, right? So they're always thinking that they're going to be this best, but the behavior doesn't always match up.
Well, I heard a couple different things I want to pull out there. I know we're getting closer to the end of the podcast here, but you made some really great points, Solomon. Number one, what I heard you was doing this work of what I call self-awareness. So we all have kind of a baseline IQ, but then there's this kind of, this personal IQ of like who you are. And Kolbe is one of them. I use the 5 voices as another tool. We call it a pioneer voice, similar, Solomon. But I think all of those, I think taking a lot of them are great because it starts to paint a picture for you about who you are. And that's what you've said of like, who am I? And knowing and leaning in my strengths beyond my technical skills. And that's what we do at Steward Your Business is we really help you lean into that so that when you work with somebody like Solomon, you can come into Solomon and say, I truly am the entrepreneur, or I truly am maybe the implementer. And you understand your strengths and where you're going to shine and where you're going to need help. And the more you can do that, in my experience, Solomon, it's just going to add gas to the fire in a good way, to what that interaction. And instead of it's going to be a little slower, if you don't have that as clear. And so I want to encourage folks, if you haven't done that work, and I'll even put it in the show notes, the one I have, the 5 voices assessment, you guys think it's absolutely free. Get in that journey. And the other thing I heard you say, Solomon, was putting yourself in rooms and spaces with others that hopefully are further along in the journey, that know a little bit more, that are going to ask you some questions, that are going to put you in a bit of a crucible to draw some better things out of you. Instead of just, if you're the top of the pile, then that's the top. That means you're maybe going to that 2x thinking. And I think that's part of leadership too, and where you've led companies, Solomon, is like, can you be humble enough and coachable enough to learn from others and put yourself in a situation? I was just talking to another coach today in Canada, and we were talking about, she was like, I think I should know more of this stuff, but I like have to lower my ego and realize that. And that's, I think, where you're getting success, Solomon, of that awareness and being in that room. Talk just briefly about that, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't know about my Kolbe score. I didn't know how bad I'm at sales when I had to get sales training help, and I'm still getting sales training help. I didn't know, I'm the founder of the company, and my brother he's my co-founder, and there would be opportunities where we had to keep it up. He's on a sales call and I'm on a sales call. I did the in-office sales call when he went out in the field and met with somebody. So when he comes back and be like, how did your call go? I said, I don't know. I think it went well. And then they didn't buy. And then he went and then he sold whatever he was. And I just thought that they were a bad fit. They were a bad prospect. They don't know. Clearly, I was a bad salesperson. That's what it was. It wasn't that we weren't, they came in and they wanted to buy whatever. And I just didn't know how to sell.
Right.
And so it's the same thing. I had to understand that I'm bad at sales. So I went through like 5 years of sales training. I know this sounds really terrible. Then I realized that I wasn't asking the right questions, and I didn't have a sales process, and I didn't do any of the things that a good salesperson would do. Maybe I did all the talking and they didn't do any talking. It's like, maybe I was a very passionate technology guy. I told them everything they needed to know, and then they ran away. Long story short, I realized that, and then we built a sales process for our company, and I teach and coach that to small organizations that don't have they didn't know that they needed help, right? So all of that had to happen because, like you said, I had to understand that I'm bad at it. And I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know how bad I was until I've taken some assessments, and I said, you're a terrible salesperson. Same thing with Quick Start. I didn't know. I mean, I knew that about myself, but I didn't know there was an assessment that's going to tell me that this is the personality I run with. So if I hired an assistant who's also a Quick Start, guess what we're going to do? We're going to start a lot of projects. We're never going to finish anything.
Right.
So I make them do a Kolbe assessment, and I make sure they're not a Quick Start or they're a low Quick Start, because I need high follow through for these people, if that makes sense. So
absolutely,
these are the kind of things that you get to do because you're understanding yourself. The second piece you said is, you said if you're at the top of the pile, you're in the wrong pile. That's what I would say. Because you should never be in that pile, because you should always have other people, like you said, that are doing or further along than you are, that can mentor you and coach you And so when I was at a EOS conference in Kansas City 2 weeks ago, I met a gentleman. He's 70 years old, maybe. He's probably ready to retire. And I said, his name is Pete. And I say, Pete, I need you to be my mentor. I just spoke to his business partner today, and I said, hey, we might do some business together, but Pete's going to be my mentor. I don't care if we work together or not. I need this guy in my life because he knows way more than where I'm at. And so it's because you want to be in rooms with people that have gone way further than you or have more experiences in their lives, so I can learn from their mistakes.
Amen. Yes.
He recommended me like 6 books to read. I'm still working on.
There you go, Solomon. So I know we're getting into the podcast. I think, what I love is how you're showing up, stewarding your company, how you're taking care of your clients. And we covered a lot of ground today on the podcast, but what would you say to that business owner, that founder, or potentially aspiring founder, it's like, I'm ready to go. What would you say to them at the end of this podcast here today that they could start to apply in their life and, move in the right direction, move in a direction that is actually going to get them in that 10x versus that 2x, if you will?
Absolutely. I think it's first grab that book and just kind of check it out. Would be probably the first thing to do. It's nothing. It's just a way of thinking about it. But I would almost argue that the things that you might be thinking about right now, unless it's about AI or something like that, it might actually not be around too much longer. It's to figure out how can you integrate AI into your business or into what you do for clients. Because right now, like I said, what we're dealing with is how do we help organizations fix some of the things that they're not doing. And we're only specifically touching lead generation and customer acquisition for AI. We're not touching their fulfillment. We're not touching anything else because we don't, we're not an AI implementation company. But what I want you to understand is that if we as founders aren't listening to what is happening in the marketplace, then we're probably going to be missing out on those 10x opportunities because you have to come up with those ideas right now on what you can be in 10 years or 5 years or 2 years, because we're still in the early games. We're early. And I'm fortunate enough, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I have a bunch of people in this company. They're just eating this stuff up so I can keep throwing ideas at them. And we are no longer coding by hand. We are no longer doing this by hand. We're no longer doing that by hand. So we are getting more done because we're putting the energy and time to learning how to make it do the work, if that makes sense. So think about that. It just frees up our time, frees up our energy to spend on more higher level work. So I would urge every single person. The other thing that I would say is go find a prompt that your customers are searching. So if you already have a business and you're making $1 million or whatever, what is it that you do? Go put that in your wife's ChatGPT and see who it's recommending for that thing. Is it recommending your business or is it recommending your competition? If you're not there, well, there's your work cut out. First, you got to get better at doing the thing, and you got to get better at being found for the thing that you do.
Yeah. Thank you, Solomon. I really appreciate this conversation you've shared. It's definitely far beyond marketing. I hear you loud and clear. It's about your leadership, your visibility, how you grow intentionally, stewarding that influence that you have and building that business that really creates a lasting impact that's going to be around. I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your wisdom and insights with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Absolutely. For everyone listening, we're going to make sure you can follow Solomon's websites and podcasts and all that, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. So you can definitely connect with him and learn more. Of course, if this something sparked, an idea on the leadership growth, how do you get using these tools, building that healthier culture? I encourage you to reach out to me at Steward Your Business as well. We can learn more, book a conversation. Of course, subscribe to the Business Roundtable Podcast. Even come on as a guest, bring value as Solomon did today. And we really appreciate you guys joining us. And hopefully we'll see you again next time. Until then, be well. Thanks, everybody.